What they had here was an interesting idea, and that was to build an arts and crafts community where the artisans would live and work in the same community.
Right.
And that works up to a point, but what they made here, although it's now in museums and collectible and very highly prized, they couldn't make enough of it. It's like you trying to make a Volvo by hand. It's not going to work. You might make a spectacular Volvo and get a good price for it, but you can't make enough of them to make a living, and that's what they faced. And the thing that lasted was the Rose Valley Folk, which is the community organization which still exists after a century and still gives the community a sense of community.
Right.
But this theater started out as a grist mill. And grist mills were common in those days because that's where farmers brought their grain to be ground up into flour and, of course, animal feed and that kind of stuff. And it was then used in various different ways. And then by the end of the 19th century, the whole valley fell into disuse. Nobody was living here anymore. And then it was Will Price in 1901 and his brothers and some other people who bought this mill and the mill across the way to start this little utopian community. And he was quite famous at the time. He was an architect who was very successful. As a matter of fact, the development across the street, Traymore, is named after a hotel that he built in Atlantic City, which was quite famous, which I think has been torn down, like all those things have been torn down. When Jasper Dieter came here, there was the Rose Valley Chorus, which did Gilbert and Sullivan musicals. This is back in 1922.
Right.
And they used the building as well as others, and but they now do other things in different places. They haven't actually performed out of here in quite a while, in decades. It's been Hedgerow Theater since 1923. But I don't know of any actual music groups other than the Rose Valley Chorus. But they do, Gilbert and Sullivan that's huge, huge productions. Oh yeah, well this is the Strathaven School District, which is very, very highly regarded. And this is why anytime you find a residential area where the properties are very expensive, hand in hand with that is usually a very good school system because they want their kids to go to that school system, and they have just a lot of opportunity, and they really promote the idea of going on to college. And this building, 1840, stone. There's a fire that destroyed everything wooden in it in 1985, but the walls are 3.5 feet thick. They stayed standing, so the building was rebuilt around those walls, and a few things added onto it.
Okay.
Well, for instance, that little creek there, that's Vernon Run, named after the Vernon brothers, who were the first to buy the land from William Penn. When you're first, you get to name stuff after yourself.
Yeah.
That's why it's not Ramirez Run or something, It's all farming country. Before that, it was the Delaware Indians, the Lenni Lenape. If you see pictures of the area back at the turn of the last century, there are no trees. There's a tree here and there. The Indians used to burn everything.
Right.
Because if you look through, now it's fall, so you can see through everything. But in the in the summer and stuff, you can't hunt or anything in there because it's all thick. The Indians would burn all the underbrush. They really managed the land much more closely than we ever thought.
Okay.
And they live very, very well. When the white man first came here, the Europeans, the English, they looked puny and sickly to the Indians because the Indians ate better, they lived better than they did, they were healthier. And of course, what the Europeans brought, which nobody understood in those days, were microbes that the Indians could not handle. So 9 out of 10 died.
At what point in this town's history do you think that the whole artisan idea, the whole utopian idea, what point do you think it started to break apart? You know what I mean?
Done by 1911.
1911?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then it became more of a residential community. The Hedgerow Theater is, in many ways, the inheritor of that whole idea because we still do theater. We still do the arts here. We still build, we design and build our own sets, and we still carry on that artistic thing that nobody else really does in Rose Valley because they can't. I mean, it's all residential. There are no businesses anywhere. There are no shops anywhere. But we still carry that on.
How close as a community do you feel like the people are to each other?
Pretty
I
much.
mean,
Everybody knows.
You know our teacher, so I mean, you
Yeah.
have to know.
Everybody knows everybody in Rose Valley, and it's a very close community. And like any small community, it's like that.
Yeah.
Everybody knows when somebody's cutting down a tree.